What's up, Airsofters? My name is Lane, and before we get into today's video, I want to tell you all about this brand new series that we're bringing to the channel. Lately, I've been loving the live streams that we've been doing every week here on the BB Warrior, where we get to have some great conversations. And throughout that, there's been a lot of great discussion, questions, and things that I think that should still live on the channel and be highlighted. So this video series is really going to highlight the best of those live streams. So let's get into it with time codes and enjoy the video. How Airsoft has changed over the years. And can we take a minute to talk about where the standard of Airsoft is now versus for those of you who have been playing for 10 plus years, back in the day, you would spend 140 bucks on a combat machine. You'd buy your battery and charger, because they didn't come with them at the time, and a bottle of BBs. That'd be 200 bucks. And you were good to go, and you'd compete with a lot of people. Nowadays, it's you're spending $350 for the cheapest Avalon. I think most of the Avalons are 400 bucks now, right? You're buying that, you're buying a Crytac. I remember back in the day thinking that I had a really cool gun because I had a JGS system. Do they even make those anymore with the old school Modern Warfare 2 rail? They were so creaky and bad, and quality has gotten better over the years. But I think the stuff that really matters, that will really push the game forward in terms of actual design and performance, we've hit a wall for sure. We've figured out the best hop-ups and the best barrels, and we have better motors now, but the V2 and the V3 gearbox, we just need something new. And HPA is probably going to be the thing that really paves the way for better performance, but there's only so much you can do with a little 6mm ball going out of a piece of brass. There's only so much we can do with that before we hit a plateau, and I think for the most part we really are there in the hobby, unfortunately. But yeah, the quality has gone up over the years, don't get me wrong, but I remember being able to recommend people, oh, you want to get into Airsoft? Buy the combat machine, buy your mask, battery charger for it. And that'd be back in the day when everybody had 9.6 nickel metal hydrides. Now, whenever I see one of those batteries compared to a LiPo, I'm oh, that came in a starter kit. Nobody willingly goes out and buys nickel metal hydride batteries anymore, right? If you're that guy, please sound off in the comments or in chat, because I'm I just never see them anymore. And one of the videos that I'm working on is an Airsoft battery guide. And I'm do I own one of these batteries? I've been playing for, 14, 15 years now, and I think I might have to order one just for this video because I cannot find them anywhere in my house, which is funny. What I regret selling the most. Back in the day, I had an old school VFC 416. This was not the A5 version. I had this when I started the channel. It was one of the first videos I ever did was on that rifle. So, 8.5 years ago now. And I remember there was a point in Airsoft where I was only playing at the same local field. I had never been to a MilSim event before. And I was just bored with Airsoft, and I was doing Navy SEAL impression kit at the time, and I was I need a change in the hobby. So I traded the gun for a VFC Scar H and an Eagle AOR2 chest rig. And that ended up, I got the rifle, the Scar, and it just gave me constant issues. Not only the mags kind of sucked, the gun didn't really work right, and trading Airsoft guns on the internet, it never goes the way you're expecting it to. So I was really unhappy with Airsoft. That 416 was my main rifle, so I was oh crap, I can't really play till I get a new gun. So I ended up selling all that and kind of ending my time in Navy SEAL stuff, and used that money to buy a Crytac. It was my Crytac CRB that I had for plenty of years, and that kind of brought me on this new trajectory in Airsoft. And this was also a time that I just started to do new things, went to new fields, and while I regret selling that 416, I think it was kind of a catalyst for me exploring a lot of new things in Airsoft, like MilSim and other brands. And I still to this day, I own two VFCs still. I have my Mark 18 and my M4 stop mod, and they're both good guns. But I still to this day miss that 416. Like there was something about having a finished correct impression kit that I was like, this is such a really good feeling. And I feel that way for the most part about my Task Force Keg U.S. Infantry kit. Like there's a couple things I want to replace. The helmet's a little too small for me. I got a big head. But at the same time, like it's this weird feeling to have your kit be complete and you're like, oh, there's nothing else I want to add to this. And that was, it was kind of sad to sell off all that stuff and get out of doing that in the hobby. But it was definitely a big turning point. And if you ever want to see all that stuff, it is in some of my really old videos. They are definitely bad, like even worse than what I make now, but they are still out there on the internet.
The challenges of winter airsoft that I experienced at Gun Gamers Productions event, Attrition.
I noticed that throughout the day, the cold was really impacting my experience because not only would it affect the batteries, it would affect hop-up as well. Like, because hop-ups are made out of silicone, they're made out of rubber type material, they harden up when it gets cold outside, and you just don't get the same range that you usually do. And I talk about this a lot in the video that I filmed today, reviewing the actual game, but the cold was just unlike anything else. Excuse me. And I think like the biggest thing is like, I wake up at 6 in the morning to go to this game. I was helping out with the chrono station. And I step outside, and you ever go outside and it's just so cold that you're like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I making myself suffer through this? That's what this game was like. Like, it was miserable before we got moving. And I remember the entire time, and Eric's in the chat, so I can say this. I remember all day thinking to myself, like, I am only doing this because this is my friend's game. Like, I am only going out in the cold to support my friend. And it ended up being a fantastic time, but God, it was cold. One of the big things I did for my own personal kit is I was putting hand warmers in my gloves because like my body felt fine. Like I layered appropriately. I did a lot of research on how to layer your clothing to make sure that you don't sweat, so that you know when to take things off, when to apply more layers. But it was always my hands, my fingers that were the coldest. And I actually ended up, with the hand warmers in my gloves, I ended up burning my hand, like right along here, which was not fun, but it just be like that sometimes. Better than frostbite, I guess. But yeah, that's just not something that you think about when you go out to play airsoft. Like whenever I go out typically, because like when I go to play airsoft in the summer, my main concern is not dying of, of heat stroke or like make sure that I drink enough water. But at this game, it was like, how do I not freeze to death? But at the same time, like make sure that I have enough water, make sure that I have everything that I need without, what's the right word? Like without over encumbering myself. Like I need to carry everything I need, but like I also need to make sure that I'm not dying carrying everything. Like one of the big pieces of kit that I thought would be really useful that I ended up not using is not hand warmers, excuse me, my Jetboil stove, because I love it from Milson West. And I was like, there will probably be a moment I could sit down and make a mountain house meal. Never had that opportunity. The way the game was designed, it just it kept us moving, and it never gave me the 15 minutes to make one, which going the day mostly without any food, or without any hot food, I should say, was not great. At one point, I did have a staff member give me a pocket burger, which was fantastic. Thank you for that, Matt. That was a real morale booster. But yeah, it was one of those things that I brought, and it took up space, but I just never ended up using it. But yeah, it was so weird to go from thinking mostly about summertime of like, how can I just be comfortable and not get too warm? And then having to think about, well, how do I stay warm? Like most of the times when I go to a game, especially if it's gonna rain, my big concern is like, well, I'm gonna bring, my level 6 or my level 7 jacket, and that'll keep me dry. I have the pants as well, but then I always end up sweating like crazy through it. And this time I'm like, well, I can't do that because if I sweat and it's 5 degrees outside, eventually that's gonna get really cold and I'm gonna have a miserable time. So this game I think was a good challenge for me as a player. I like games that are physically demanding as well, and this was definitely demanding in every sense. Because
my first time in platoon leadership.
I was a platoon sergeant at this game as well, which this is my first time doing PSG. And that's a challenge in and of itself. Like the game for me wasn't about having a good time, even though I did. It was really fun. It was making sure that other people had a good time and being more strategic. Because like most of the time when I play Airsoft, it's an open play or something like that, and I just need to think about not dying myself. But for me, it's like, how do I set up these, 24 guys to make sure that we can repel a platoon size attack? And then it comes down into the factors of it being cold out. It's like, how do I, keep these guys on the line? Like, we're holding a ridge. How do I sit here? Where do I place my machine gunners? Because we had a couple of specialty roles at this game. Where do I place them? And how do I rotate people out to still have that defense, but also make sure that people are getting warm? Because laying on the ground, if you're not in comfortable clothing that's keeping you insulated, is going to suck your body heat out and you're going to get uncomfortable fairly quickly. So that was just such a fun, it was the type of challenge that like I was enjoying having to do that problem solving. And I love my platoon leader for that game, Joe, who was also fantastic. He's way better at radio stuff than I am. So we were able to balance each other out, and nothing was more rewarding than coming up with a platoon size plan or even a company size plan working with our other platoon and seeing it executed and seeing the stuff that like you're relaying the plan down to other people and seeing it execute and execute effectively. So rewarding. So like one of the coolest experiences in Airsoft. And you just don't get that at open plays. So it was something that I really appreciated about this game. But winter makes it challenging. And I see that Eric just mentioned down in our chat that it was one of the hardest games that they played. Yeah, I definitely think like in terms of the actual day, it was very challenging and it was a hard game. I still think that like because this game doesn't involve rucks or some of the other physically demanding stuff that like a Milsim West requires, I think one of those games are still harder to me, but to a lot of players, yeah, this was something that a lot of people just have never experienced before. And that's, the comparison between this and Milsim West, they're two completely different beasts, but it was definitely a challenging game. And I did appreciate getting to see some viewers while I was out there, so I hope if any of you are in this chat, again, it was so cool to be able to talk to people. That's one of my favorite people, or one of my favorite things about doing this on YouTube, is being able to connect with other people in this hobby.
My dream SMG in Airsoft.
So the MPX has been my dream gun in Airsoft for a while. I've been talking about this for years that I wanted one because it was in Battlefield 4 and it was like my favorite submachine gun, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I need it in Airsoft. The issue I have with the Airsoft one, because they exist now, is one, they're incredibly pricey. It's a SIG product, so I'm not surprised at all. It doesn't come with the stock I want either. I want the like I don't know the actual name for it, but the MP5 style sliding stock with the two rails that come back just like a normal MP5. I think that is the best. The other thing is the mid caps, the last time I looked, are really hard to get. And then even when you get them, they're $30 mid caps and they don't hold a ton of BBs. What I would want the MPX for in Airsoft is it is what I would want for night vision. Like, I want it to be really small. I want to put a foam-filled can on there, HPA it, and just make it this nice, really handy, quiet replica to use for night vision time. Like, I just think that would be the coolest thing, fulfill all of my like high-speed operator fantasies. But that is a lot of money, and I just bought the GMP Stoner 63, which has become my latest project. I also still have a bunch of stuff to do to my my GHK AK, and I own an Elite Force MP5K, which kind of fills that role already. Now, those aren't HPA'd, but yeah, if I was going to get the MPX, that would be my dream for it. I just think that, it would relive my days playing Battlefield 4 back when that was the premier FPS out. But sadly, the cost is not making it very manageable for me right now. Unfortunately, very cool gun. My buddy has one, and I cannot wait to actually get to hold it. But at the end of the day, in Airsoft, it's another M4 that takes specialty mags.
A gear company stole my video.
Fun fact: if anybody's ever heard of the company Samapo Gear, they make a lot of Navy SEAL knockoff LBT and Eagle stuff. They like straight up ripped one of my videos a couple years ago, and like this was back when my quality was atrocious. Like I was filming videos with a contour camera, like one of those little ones you strap to the side of your helmet, or people used to before GoPros got affordable. I was filming with those, editing in Windows Movie Maker, like the video editing software that comes with your computer. It was a bad video. It's atrocious. And they straight up stole it and posted it on their channel. And I didn't even know that they had a YouTube channel until a couple years later. YouTube has this feature where you can like check if anybody has something that you probably own, like your own copyright stuff. You can see if anybody's put a copyright strike against you. And I saw it. And I'm like, wow, they ripped it, like the entire thing. So now I think I like ended up having them take it down. But real funny experience from back then, which I still find hilarious to this day.
Why I love Zulu 24, an airsoft field in New York State.
Everybody who is like the staff there know what they're doing, and that is something that a lot of fields really haven't gotten down, in my opinion. Like, yeah, you can open an airsoft field if you have money and land, but opening a field that is a good experience, that takes skill, that takes time, and it takes patience to be able to get it right. And they have nailed those things down. Their procedures, like everything from chrono to getting on the field to even their parking setup, which you may not think about a lot in airsoft. It's all professional, it's all well done. And if you're in the Northeast, Zulu 24 is a field that you have to check out. It's just a amazing experience. They have everything that you could want. They have open play days with a lot of people. They have, outside event promoters come in. They have swap meets. They have night games. It's a fantastic facility. The only thing that I don't like about Zulu 24 is that it isn't closer to my house. Like, it's a drive. Like, I think we drive about 3.5 hours to get to Zulu, even for open plays. But the fact that I do that several times a year just goes to show how good of a field it is. There are fields that are much closer to me, but I would rather spend the extra time, spend the extra money, and go to Zulu, in all honesty. It's a fantastic field. So if you haven't tried it, definitely check it out.
Using drones in airsoft.
I think that drone technology, it's one of those things that can either be really innovative and cool in a game, or it can be a gimmick. So this past weekend at Attrition, presented by Gun Gamers Productions, they used drone technology, which our commanders were able to use to spot out enemies and help with, troop movement, enemy positioning, and being able to position our team in such a way to counteract and destroy the enemy. I think in a game like that, it's fantastic, but to make a drone worth it, you need coordination, and you're just not going to get that at a open play. I think the other issue that you run into with drones is people see it, and then they're like, oh, now I need to shoot the drone, and that's not cool. There's a reason why we have to remind people in briefings to not shoot at wildlife or anything like that. So telling people not to shoot at a drone, that's hard as well. So I think that the best way that we can make drone technology work in airsoft is, one, to do it legitimately. Don't do it in an illegal way, don't do it in an unsafe way. And then beyond that, it just needs to be at a game that supports it. You need to have something that is structured enough, because if one guy brings a drone to his open play, he's really not doing that much to be productive, and that's when it kind of becomes a gimmick. But if there's a reward system and something that the team has to do to unlock that perk, I think that can definitely be incorporated into airsoft in a way that is exciting, fun, and pushes the game forward. But it's one of those situations where it has to be done appropriately. And could drones help out in reffing? I think the issue with that is, I don't think that drones will be good for hit calling necessarily. It could be good for knowing where people are going to be. That could definitely cause an issue, because you're not going to have the lens quality to be able to track hits on every player, and you have a big zoomed out perspective most of the time, so it won't be noticeable. But yeah, no, I don't think drones could be helpful in making sure that the flow of the game is good. If you're making sure people are where they're supposed to be, if you have a game design that incorporates different what's the right word for it? Different phases of a game, where a team starts here, they attack this position, and then they go to this position, and this one, and then that one. Drones could help to make sure that the pacing works, but in terms of enforcing rules, besides boundary rules, I just don't think that it is going to be very effective in that sense.
Taking airsoft too seriously.
How do I loosen up people at a pickup game? Last week I went and people were really serious and at each other's necks. Um, you know, I think how do I even explain this? Um, Airsoft's really weird because it's a male-dominated hobby, and a lot of these male-dominated hobbies, no matter what you do, you get ego wrapped up in it very, very quickly, which causes some issues where people take airsoft way too seriously. I think at the end of the day, we all have to remember we're a bunch of nerds running around in the woods with toy guns. Like, airsoft isn't as serious as many people make it out to be. And I think in a situation like you're describing, where it's an open play where people are like, we're here to win and getting all toxic, it really comes down to field culture and staff kind of like noticing that and preventing it, kind of cooling people off and just talking to them. Like at the end of the day, we're all human beings. But at the other end of the spectrum, human beings are very emotional in our decision making. So I think unfortunately it's just like a day of thing. It's hard to do something if you're not a staff member, but just talking to people, making jokes, whatever it may be. But like it makes me uncomfortable when I go to a field and there's people freaking out, and like those are the like when you go to these open plays, that's where I always notice people complaining about hit calling. It's never a Milson West that people are like, oh my God, they're not calling their hits and they're freaking out. It's always at like these small games that have no consequences and people are just taking it too seriously. So unfortunately, I think a lot of it comes down to the refs, the staff, the community as a whole, really just trying to not allow that to continue, making sure that it's known that it's unacceptable to have that behavior, to act like an adult. But it's just very, I don't even know how to say it. Like if you're being a baby about our game of pretend war, like maybe you need a new hobby. It drives me crazy. But yeah, I feel like it's a hard thing to stop when it's happening because people kind of feed on that negativity. But like, I don't know, maybe find a new place to play would be the other answer as well. Unfortunately, I hate to say that.
UCP is making a comeback.
Now I do see something in the chat that I want to address. Never go UCP. I think that UCP has hit that point where it's cool again. Like the Army adopted it in 2005, and for like the next 10 years it was like, oh, this is disgusting, it's gross, it's grandma couch camo. But now that it's got some time, now that it's kind of vintage and like everybody's on to multicam now, I think UCP with the right kit looks phenomenal. Doesn't blend into anything. Still doesn't, it isn't effective in North America, don't get me wrong, but it looks really cool. Like, I think the best UCP kits are that era of like 2008 Rangers, I want to say, where it was UCP uniforms, Ranger green, like Eagle Industries plate carriers, and then like Mitch 2000s, 2001 helmets with Mark 18s. Ooh, chef's kiss. Like those are the coolest UCP kits. The other ones I really like are doing it for infantry impressions. Like I'm a part of Task Force Keg, and what I really enjoy in that, and it's not really within our SOPs, is my multicam IOTV over my UCP uniform, which I always very quickly point out to people that I reference pictures to back it up. I just think that it's so cool. And Frog in the Waves even just said, UCP with the US Army kind of green fleece, fantastic. Like, God, it just looks so good. And that was kind of what I was going for at attrition, but then I ended up putting on my black Columbia jacket just because I was cold. But I think the UCP can look good, like most times, don't get me wrong. Like most times it looks like you're a brand new airsofter. It looks like you're getting dropped off for the birthday party at the open play. But if you do it right, if you know what you're doing, it just looks phenomenal.
My favorite camos for airsoft.
What is my favorite camo? Theirs is Ranger Green and Coyote Brown. I think what it comes down to for me is I really like solid colors for my gear, like the plate carrier, the chest rig, the belt, because they do go with so much stuff. And like, let's be honest, the most important part of airsoft, besides having fun, is looking cool. So most of what I own is Coyote Brown, so that it all goes together. and can be interchanged. So like my Spirit Systems Mark III chest rig, which I actually just featured in the last video. This is Coyote. And to this, I have a bigger kind of placard that this can live on, which gives me gives me a dump pouch and a general purpose pouch on each side. I have a backpack that this chest rig can hook into, and I have some other goodies as well. Other than that, a lot of what I own is in multicam. Excuse me. So like off the bat, my IOTV is multicam. My JTech Mark II chest rig that I use for FSB kit, that is multicam as well. So I would say, you know, like really my favorite for gear color is Coyote Brown, because I think it goes with literally everything. But in terms of uniforms, that's when I tend to bring in actual patterns. And what I own most of is tan-based camos. So I have multicam, partially because it's my impression. I think the Desert Tiger Stripe, well, it doesn't blend into anything in the Northeast. Beautiful camo, I love it, it's just super drippy. Woodland Tiger Stripe is also great, I do need to pick up a set of that. And then M81 is my other, like if I'm going green team for an event, that is the camo I will wear. I think there's other camos that I'm a real big fan of that I'll just never be able to afford, like Swedish M90 and M90K. The issue with them is they don't have a surplus culture like we do here. Like I believe they burn their uniforms after service. I could be wrong about that. But it's harder to get those uniforms, and the brands that are available that will ship to America are like their version of Cry Precision. So it becomes incredibly expensive to order it here, and for something that I think just looks cool and doesn't really provide any advantages over what I already own, just not worth it for me personally. But yeah, those are some of my favorite patterns that I like using. I think that, you know, multicam and US Woodland for uniforms is great because it's so widely available through surplus or private companies. And there's options at pretty much every price point. Like between those two camos, you could go surplus, you could go true spec, you could go Cry Precision, Beyond. There's so many companies offering products in those camouflage patterns. And I think it's funny that like, I love M81 as a uniform. I don't like it for gear, not only because not a lot of companies make it, I don't know what it is about it. Like M81 over another pattern looks weird to me. I think most patterns do, which is why I don't necessarily use them very often on the actual kit themselves. And oh, how could I forget? I really like AOR2 as well. I have a Patagonia AOR2 field shirt that I wear a lot with that little Spiritus over it with my, you know, little Mark 18 Motto, and I got a nice little comfortable lightweight kit that I really enjoy using. And one that I have that's kind of odd, I have a, I can't even remember the company. And if I say the wrong one, I'll feel stupid. I have a wolf gray uniform from somebody. LA Police Gear, I think, is who it is. Which I like. It's cut like super baggy. Like I'm a pretty skinny guy, and the legs have like 10-inch openings. It's just way too much. Like they need to be tapered, they need to be hemmed for me. So I don't wear it often, but I think with like a little bit of black gear, you know, maybe like a helmet as well, I think it can look pretty cool. But, you know, obviously you're not blending into much in the woods wearing wolf gray. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I want to know what you guys thought about what we talked about in this ramble. Make sure to leave that down below. And if you want to see more stuff from the channel, if you want to be able to view our live streams after they're done, see videos early, and also be able to use emotes during those live streams, all those are available for channel members. If you want to learn more about becoming a member and supporting the channel, that is all down below in the description. But my name is Lane, and I will see you all next time.